Once upon a time, in a distant countryside under a scorching sun, there were rice fields just harvested. Straw lay drying on the parched land, the intense heat mingling with the scent of dry grass. It was a remote area where a middle-aged monk was on a pilgrimage through many villages. He wore a worn brown robe, had bare feet, carried a begging bowl on his shoulder, and leaned on a bamboo staff. With a quiet and compassionate demeanor, he hardly spoke, merely observing the world around him with eyes of understanding and kindness. You are listening to Stories from the Flower Field channel, featuring beautiful and meaningful tales from Buddhism to help us improve ourselves. Please leave your thoughts in the comments and support me by liking and following the channel to receive notifications when new videos are released. On a sweltering afternoon, the monk stopped in front of a simple house. The fence was crooked, and the tiles on the roof were chipped and broken in places. The homeowner was John, a young farmer from a distant land who had settled in this area. John had a hot temper and often got angry when his farming efforts did not go as planned. This year, the weather had been unusual, the crops had failed, and an injury to his shoulder made labor difficult. The accumulated feelings of frustration and fatigue made him rough and prone to explosive outbursts like a powder keg. The monk arrived at the gate, bowing humbly, intending to ask for a bit of water. John had just come back from the fields, his shirt still covered in dirt, sweat streaming down. Seeing a stranger, especially a monk, asking for water, he immediately became irritable. "Hey, you monk. You loaf around all day, doing nothing useful, and now you want to ask for water? I'm not going to waste my time on a freeloader. Get lost." The harsh words fell like stones thrown into the water. John waited for the monk to react. Usually, when he was rude, others would respond, leading to a verbal sparring match. But this time, the monk stood still, his gaze clear like a still lake. He clasped his hands and softly said, "I apologize for the disturbance. I understand your difficult situation. If it is inconvenient, I will leave with that." The monk gently turned away and continued down the dry path, showing no signs of anger, offering no justification or blame. John stood in shock, frozen in front of the gate. He had thrown out his gift, which was his anger, but the recipient did not accept it, so the gift hung in the air, returning to him. He felt a sense of emptiness, as if he had swung his fist into thin air. His heart suddenly felt heavy with embarrassment. Why didn't that monk get angry? As evening fell, in the faint light of the sunset, John carried water back, his mind swirling with that question. At night, while eating with his wife, Sophia, he recounted the story. Sophia pondered. Perhaps he is a monk who understands the human heart. Who knows, he might have seen the pain in you and not taken your words to heart. John felt restless. The next day, while the morning dew still clung to the leaves, he hurried to the path where the monk had passed, hoping to see him again. Finally, he found the monk sitting by a small stream, his eyes half closed, seemingly blending into the sound of the birds singing and the water trickling. Seeing that peaceful demeanor, John felt an unusual sense of guilt. He approached and spoke softly. "Dear teacher, I raised my voice at you yesterday. I apologize. But why didn't you get angry or react?" The monk smiled, his eyes gentle like a mother's looking at her child. When someone throws a stone into a pond, the surface ripples. But if the pond is deep and calm enough, it doesn't hold the mark for long. Insulting words are like that stone. If our mind is a still pond, those words leave no trace. Your anger cannot harm me if I do not accept it. On the contrary, if I get angry, we both suffer. John bowed his head, his voice trembling. "I understand. So what should I do when my heart ignites with anger in the face of adversity? Every time the crops fail, every time there's difficulty, I can't control myself." The monk looked down at the clear stream. Anger is like dark clouds covering the sun. Trying to chase the clouds away only makes you more tired. Let the clouds pass naturally. When you're angry, don't react immediately. Take a deep breath, pause. If you don't say or do anything more, the anger will subside, just like muddy water will become clear again if left undisturbed. John quietly nodded. He was determined to try. Whenever work was hard, the rice was poor, or the buffalo trampled the freshly planted rose, he remembered the monk's words. Pause for a moment, take a deep breath. He did not utter harsh words, did not chase away the buffalo, nor did he immediately complain about his misfortunes. He felt the fire in his heart gradually calm down. Not all difficulties disappeared, but he no longer suffered from his own anger. His wife, children, and neighbors were surprised and praised him for being more composed and approachable lately. John began to realize that controlling his emotions helped him feel relieved and clear-minded. A few days later, he returned to the stream, bringing some bread and a bottle of cool water as a token of gratitude for the monk. But the monk had continued on his pilgrimage. The riverbank was empty, with only the sound of the wind rustling through the green leaves. John stood for a moment, smiling, offering a silent word of thanks. He had left, but the seed of peace had been sown in his heart, ready to sprout whenever anger arose. From then on, John lived a new life. Although he still faced adversity and difficulties, he learned to pause and not react immediately. As a result, he escaped the cycle of suffering he had created for himself. In the spirit of Buddhism, not reacting is not weakness, but a manifestation of wisdom and compassion. Through stillness, he found the path to inner liberation, remaining serene amidst the fluctuations of life.